I'm just a librarian with OCD. They all think my daily job is to arrange books neatly, but I don't know that in my eyes. The whole world is a book that needs calibration. When the elites of the Procedure Guild suppress a battle with runic energy, but I only started with a book on logical paradoxes. Let the rampaging bookshelf system reset. They use violence to fight the rules, and I toy with the rules, because only I can fix the bugs in this world. A scream shattered the silence in Library Area C. I stopped what I was doing. I am working with millimeter-level precision. Adjust the position of an ancient book. No way. I have severe obsessive-compulsive disorder and obsessive cleanliness. Any bit of disorder. It all made me physically feel nauseous. Help, the bookshelf is swallowing books. It's crazy. Not far away, the 10-meter-high rosewood bookshelf showed unusual activity. It looked like a giant beast just awakened. It made a creaking sound. One hardcover history book after another, sliding down from the bookshelf myself, then melted into a wooden barrel. That's not a drop. It was devouring. Almost lockdown. The head of the C District Public Intellectuals Guild was pale. The monkey was hoarse and exhausted. A piercing alarm sounded along with it. Less than 10 minutes. A heavy metallic footstep approached from afar. Procedures and labor union services. The idle people dispersed. A clear yet cold female voice rang out. Immediately after, a group of guys wearing brass exoskeletons rushed in. The leading woman had an unbelievably voluptuous figure. The tight combat suit outlines the curves clearly, but his face was full of impatience. He shoved the colleague blocking his way. He glanced contemptuously at the scene. What level of rule anomaly is worth pulling an S-level alert? Captain Ella is an activation-type target on bookshelf C07. A team member quickly reported. Activation. Ella snorted coldly. A mocking smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. That same old-fashioned type again, clearing the shield in 3 minutes. He clearly had a kind of blind confidence in his own technology. Activate the rune suppressor. Power 70%. Ella gave the order. The two team members immediately set up a brass instrument. Steam began to spurt out. Golden rune energy chains appeared. Like a snake, it shot toward the living bookshelf. Done. Ella crossed her arms. He looked like he was about to wrap up work. However, the next second, the confidence on his face froze. The golden energy chain had just touched the bookshelf. The bookshelf was not shaken by the shock. It was more like he had been injected with stimulants. Shu's speed doubled instantly. Energy is not only useless. Instead, it became the best nourishment. What? Ella's pupils suddenly contracted. Captain, the energy reaction is being absorbed and assimilated by the target. Our repression became a catalyst. The technician's voice was filled with terror. Bullshit. Ella cursed. Her beautiful face twisted slightly from shock. Right in this chaos, no one noticed me. I stood at a safe distance. There was not a trace of fear on his face. I just calmly took out my flat notebook and pen, quickly recording the target. Only the history book order in Zone C, strictly according to the publication year. From ancient times to the present, rune energy acts as a catalyst, not inhibitors. At this moment, a player eager to perform was too close. He wanted to stop it with his hand. A tremendous force came from the bookshelf. He dragged him out completely. Idiot. Ella's eyes sharpened. He dashed forward in a single step. He kicked him back from the brink of death. He let out a soft sound. I closed my laptop. I looked at the flustered Ella. Xiao Song pushed up the gold-rimmed glasses on his nose. The lenses reflect their futile struggles. I murmured softly to myself. The order is wrong. He was simply correcting a more fundamental mistake. Increase power. Open it up to 120% for me. I don't believe I can't handle this broken wooden frame. After 2 failures, Ella was completely furious. Her beautiful face flushed bright red. I could feel his professionalism and dignity. It was being pressed against the ground by this bookshelf. The captain increased the power again. The core will be overloaded. The technician hurriedly tried to persuade him. Then launch Plan 2. Ella gritted her teeth and growled lowly. Notify headquarters to apply for authorization. Prepare high-energy rune cannons. I'm going to cover this entire C-zone. Wipe off the map along with that damned bookshelf along with it. Sure enough, destruction is when they can't solve their problems. The simplest and most direct method. Stop. I spoke up. The sound is not loud, but it was clearly transmitted to everyone's ears. Ella suddenly turned around. His gaze stabbed at me like a knife. Your approach will only make things worse. I pushed up my glasses. A bland statement of a fact. He might even be Trigger. After a brief silence, a howling erupted from the Guardian squad. Ha! A librarian was telling us captain to do things. Kid, get out of here. Don't get in the way of the professionals. Ella looked at you as if you were a fool. The contempt in his eyes was almost overflowing. A librarian. It's none of your business here. I counted to 3 and disappeared immediately. Otherwise, I will arrest you on charges of obstructing official duties. Faced with their mockery, my expression didn't change at all. My obsessive-compulsive disorder made it impossible for me to tolerate wrong logic. He wasn't eating books. I ignore everyone. Direct opening. Like a professor teaching kindergarten children. He was organizing things. His core rule is to disconnect all confused knowledge. Return to the correct timeline. As soon as these words came out, the audience was quiet. The mockery on Ella's face froze. Are you talking nonsense? What evidence? I glanced at the bookshelf. First, he only swallowed history books. Second, he strictly follows the original edition year from ancient times to the present. Isn't that obvious enough? I paused. His gaze turned to Ella, with a hint of pity. As for your runic energy, for him, It's just a bunch of chaotic, junk data streams. Your suppression has disrupted his sorting process, so it must speed up to eliminate the information pollution you cause. He's not fighting you, he was cleaning up the trash. Those words were like a slap in the face. He slapped all the Forsaken team members hard across the faces. Ella's face instantly turned a pig liver. He was about to lose his temper. The technician behind him stared intently at the screen. Cold sweat the size of beans broke out on his forehead. The voices were trembling. Yes, Captain. Ha, he was right. The technician suddenly looked up. Look at me with the eyes of a monster. The voice is high. Energy analysis shows our runic energy is truly being absorbed and re-encoded by the target. Its internal logic is exactly as he described. Boom. That was like a bomb. The laughter stopped abruptly. All the team members included Ella. They all looked at me with expressions as if they'd seen a ghost. A librarian. Observation with the naked eye alone. He pierced through a rule anomaly that even top-tier instruments couldn't analyze. Ella's expression shifted from disdain to shock. The last blank space. But I didn't care about their gazes at all. My cleanliness freak kicked in. I cannot tolerate such logical confusion. Continue to exist on my turf. I said calmly. Is there a fatal thing in this program? After saying that, I turned and ignored the petrified elites behind me. Head straight to the district's philosophy bookshelf. Ella and the team members were like trees pulled by strings. Instinctively, he followed along. I could only hear my words as if talking to themselves. It was as if a voice was being spoken to them softly. To fix it, no need for a bigger hammer. He just needs to be given a paradox he cannot understand. Ha, what is he going to do? Why go to the philosophy section? Is it really trying to discourage abnormalities with grand principles? The elite members of the Procedure Guild, at this moment, they were like a group of curious children. Step by step, he landed and followed behind me. I ignored the tail behind me. He walked straight to the philosophy bookshelf deep in the district. My fingers traced through rows of books. Without the slightest hesitation, I already knew where the target was. Eventually, my hand stopped in front of a very inconspicuous old book. Introduction to Logical Paradoxes. I pulled out my book and turned around. Only this one team member couldn't help but mutter quietly. A broken book. Ella glared at him fiercely. He whispered, "Shut up. Watch me get started with that book on logical paradoxes." Step by step, they walked toward the still restless Mr. Bookshelf. Dangerous. Ella nervously gripped the gun at her waist. I completely ignored him. I stopped about 1 meter from the bookshelf. Then, under everyone's breathless gaze, I was gently steady. He placed the book in his hand on a section of the karaoke board extending from the bookshelf. Just like an ordinary librarian, put a misplaced book back where it belongs. The moment the book touched the bookshelf, the entire bookshelf trembled violently. It let out a wailing cry, as if the system was overloaded. In my eyes, those countless black lines representing its core rules. In that moment, she was instantly confused. Then, one by one, they were dissipated by the ordinary process. Pause. It was as if the entire bookshelf had been paused. The next second, a miracle happened. The bookshelf started moving even faster. Supplement all the books you had eaten before. And those books were not scattered everywhere. Instead, it was controlled by a hand that strictly observed absolute order, according to the correct year and code, neatly stacked on the ground. A few minutes later, the bookshelf was restored to its original state. Standing there quietly, the rule anomaly subsided. How is this possible? Ella rushed forward, watching this almost miraculous scene before him. The voices were shaking. I calmly picked up the book of logical paradoxes and began reading. He blew on some dust that didn't exist on top and explained lightly. Its core rule is to organize history. It is built on the linear logic of time and cause and effect. And I gave him a book about logical paradoxes. It doesn't belong to any timeline, cannot be categorized. His very existence conflicts with linear causality. I pushed up my glasses. He concluded. It's like giving a calculator that only handles numbers a forcibly input passage. Its core rules cannot be analyzed. Program crashes. This ultimately leads to a system reset. The audience was dead and silent. All formalists. They all looked at me with eyes as if looking up at a divine artifact. Without firing a single shot, using just the most ordinary book, this solved a rule anomaly group that left rune technology helpless. Behind me, an old man reeking of alcohol stared intently at me. A complex light flashed in his cloudy eyes. A crisp snap rang out at attention. Ella put away all her pride in front of me. He gave me a solemn and standard military salute. His gaze had shifted from initial contempt to shock. At this moment, it turned into a fervent admiration. My name is Ella, captain of the Guardians Guild's 3rd Action Team. Ella's voice was utterly sincere. There was even a hint of excitement. Mr. Lin Mo, on behalf of the Guardians Guild, I formally invite you to join our guild. It's not that the world needs talent like you. Faced with Ella's enthusiastic invitation, I just pushed up my glasses. Okay, I nodded, but I still have to continue the restoration work for ancient books in the library. For me, joining a guild is no different from organizing your bookshelf. Anyway, it's all about correcting mistakes. Ella was momentarily stunned, then he laughed. He probably never saw anyone invited by the Procedure Guild, and you can negotiate terms so confidently. Half an hour later, I got into a steam-powered car that was smoking white, pushed through thick fog to reach headquarters. This place was hidden in an abandoned industrial area, and when the door opened, it was a huge underground city. The steam pipes coiled around like pythons. Rune energy flowed through the tubes. Steam hanging in midair like a man-made sun. The core was pounding loudly. How does it feel? Lin Mo was consulted. Ella was a bit proud. This is the forefront of humanity's fight against abnormal rules. I glanced at those perfectly fitted gears. I gave it my highest rating. Very orderly. Along the way, Ella explained the rules here. The guild was divided into two factions. We are tech-savvy. The symbol is the gear. Believes in parsing and controlling anomalies. The other is the evolutionary faction. The symbol is flames. He curled his lips. A group of people who rely too much on violence. If it can't be solved, just destroy it directly. They call it purification. I call it inefficient processing. I took out my notebook and jotted it down. Tech experts analysis. Evolution faction cleared. With that, we headed to the cafeteria. One was over 2 meters tall. A muscular man ran straight at me holding a tray. I instinctively dodged. He didn't crash into it. He deliberately gave him another elbow twist. It slammed hard into my shoulder. You kid, you can't see when you walk. He grinned. The flame ashes on his chest were very conspicuous. His companions behind him started egging him on. Marcus, this is our new consultant. A nerd who solves abnormal issues with logic. Marcus looked at me with disdain. Don't cry during the quest. If your nose is abnormal, you won't listen to reason. Do you want to die? Ella said coldly. He stood directly in front of me. Marcus's face twitched. Captain, I'm just saying hello. Greetings. Ella smiled. The next second, without warning, he kicked over the metal dining table. Clang! The table, along with the food, smashed all over Marcus's face. The soup was soaked in a whole mouth. The entire cafeteria was deathly silent. Anyone who dares to mess with me again. Ella's voice was quiet, but the killing intent was rising. I'll twist your head off and kick it like a ball. Marcus got up. The two groups instantly drew their swords in tense escalation. His hands were all pressed against his weapon. I didn't panic. He even took half a step back. He took out his notebook. Kill, 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 I write while reciting. Marcus is 2 meters tall, muscular and easily angered, likes to solve problems with violence. Poor logical ability. Both sides were stunned. What is this bookworm doing? Profile sketching. At this moment, the piercing S-class alarm went off. Red text popped up on the screen. Leaf formation is a regional time loop. 3 first-tier teams went missing. The audience was silent. Abnormal rules within the time are the most unsolvable nightmare. Over the broadcast, the president's voice came through. Assigned task leader Ella of the 3rd Action Squad. Consulting Lin Mo. The voice paused for a moment. Then he added the last sentence heavily. And former ace Captain Gray. Hear the name. Ella's face turned pale. An old man reeking of alcohol suddenly looked up in the corner. His cloudy eyes were filled with fear and unwillingness. We arrived at Fallen Leaf Town. Outside, sunlight falls on leaves. The aroma of toasted bread. The townspeople greeted him warmly. It was peaceful. S-class. Ella looked at the unresponsive detector. Frown. No. Old Gray beside him was shaking like a sieve, fixated on the town. The calmer it is, the more deadly. I didn't speak. He only noted the clock tower pointer at the entrance. Exactly 9 o'clock in the morning. The investigation lasted a whole day. Nothing. Proving that time loops are simply unknown. All the instruments turned into scrap metal. Old Gray had long given up, sitting on the bench,
muttering that I couldn't get out.
Ella was about to lose patience too. I don't care.
Like doing field work. Record everyone's route of action. 12 noon. When the bell rang. Old Gray bounced up as if struck by electricity. There was no blood on his face. The 12th bell has finished ringing. World quiet.
Immediately after, a pure white light devoured everything.
A fleeting sense of weightlessness
flashed by.
I opened my eyes and found myself back at the town entrance. Beside them were the furious Ella and the collapsed Gray on the ground. The clock tower pointer. Exactly 9 o'clock in the morning. I touched my pocket. The notebook filled with data is gone. Only the memory is still counting. Ella punched the tree bark so hard it cracked. He couldn't even care about the blood on the back of his hand. Old Gray clutched his head and screamed on the ground. Endless repetition.
Going mad will lead to death here.
These two were on the verge of breaking down. I didn't panic. He turned and went straight into a stationery store next door. I used the last coins in my pocket to buy a new notebook and a pen. Then he walked up to them. Open the notebook.
Kill, 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 let's start writing. I used my brain to analyze
the data from the first 3 hours.
It was reproduced word for word.
Then write that at noon. The physical state will reset to 0. And thus retained it. Finished. I looked at the desperate Old Gray. Has anyone ever tried blowing up the clock tower before midnight?
Old Gray gave a bitter laugh, fried until it was smashed to pieces. But when December 1st arrived, a flash of white light appeared.
The clock tower is perfectly intact. Everything is business
usual.
I see. I nodded. I drew a circle at noon. Ella looked at me like a monster.
What the hell are you thinking? You are all wrong. I pushed up my glasses, looking at the distant clock tower. The key may not be the result at 12 o'clock. Instead, it was the process of reaching 12 o'clock. The 3rd cycle. Ella blasted the roof of the town government to pieces with her gun. Jiming screamed in terror. But the next second, he smiled again. The 9th cycle. Old Gray covered his head with his shirt, refusing to enter the town again, no matter what.
The 17th cycle. Ella blew up the fire hydrant, standing in the water column, firing wildly.
Sweep around them.
He needed a vent.
Otherwise, it will go crazy. I stood nearby, watching coldly.
I switched to the 5th notebook. I wandered the town alone like a ghost. The trajectory of every townsman. I recorded all the wind speed and light exposure. This eternal model of a day. I completely understood it. Cycle 20. 9 a.m. Ella leaned against the car.
Run out of steam. Mental torment is far more terrifying than physical torment. Let's go. I dropped a word. He headed straight into town.
Ella gritted her teeth and dragged Old Gray to catch up. I walked ahead. It was like holding a script and precisely avoiding everyone. 11:50 morgens. We stood beneath the massive base of the clock tower.
What is this? Only 10 minutes left
until the reset. Ella was panting heavily. I raised my hand to signal him to be quiet. A very faint cry
over.
In the shadow of the bell tower. A little girl in a white dress slowly appeared.
A semi-transparent body hugging the knees. Crying is very sad.
The core of the anomaly. Ella raised her gun.
Zwira's communicator suddenly rang. I am the vice president of the evolution faction, Leighton. A cold voice rang out. Ella's expression changed.
The distortions in Fallen Leaf Town are spreading. I gave the order. If the next cycle doesn't resolve it, headquarters will launch the region-formatted high-track rune cannon. After 90 minutes, the charge is complete. Erase the vibrator along with the abnormal one.
There were also several hundred living people inside. Ella roared.
Sacrifice for order is necessary.
After saying this, Leighton immediately cut off the communication. Or solve it next time. Or they would be reduced to ashes along with the town, despairing in despair.
Old Gray was completely collapsed. Even Ella froze in place. In the dead silence, I crouched down.
Unfold the notebook filled with data. I pointed to the construction site on the map. He drew another line. It connected to the crying little girl. Her name is Annie. I said calmly. Ella and Gremlin looked up. He waited every day for his dad to come home for lunch.
I looked at them. During the 12th observation, I confirmed that his dad was every day at 11:58 a.m. Those who died in scaffolding collapses will never return. All the clues were connected. The little girl waited endlessly and was filled with sorrow. This is the fuel for this time prison. I stood up, looking at the towering clock tower. We always think about how to break the cycle. I said softly, but if the rules are not loops at all, it's the lag. The word lag was like a bolt of lightning. He directly split open the minds of Love and Old Gray, which had been tightly imprisoned. But before they could think it through, the next second, the blinding white light swallowed everything again. 22nd time, and also the last cycle. At 9 in the morning, the sunlight and breeze prove the machine-like fake smile. Everything is business as usual. But this time, the air was filled with the scent of death. 90-minute countdown to the high-orbit rune array.
It's already ticking in our minds.
Rushing to the top of the bell tower. Cover me.
I threw out that sentence. The tone was flat as if he was saying, go organize a bookshelf. Before he could finish, I had already rushed out.
Ella took a deep breath, instantly suppressing all fear. He raised his gun and followed along. Old Gray in the corner was trembling all over.
He glanced at my back. A fierce struggle flashed in his eyes. His throat was dry and itchy. At this moment, the street ahead was twisted. Because there are too many cycles, this timeline finally breaks down.
Antibodies were produced.
Time overlaps one after another.
Flickering fragments of time seeped out from the walls and floor.
They have no fixed shape at all.
Chaos intertwined. It made a sizzling sound. They lunged at us like crazy. Be careful not to touch it.
Ella shouted, full firepower. The beam shattered the fragments.
But in the blink of an eye, they fought back again. It can't be killed at all. A fragment bypassed the fire net. The shadow lunged straight at me.
Lin Mo. Ella exclaimed. There was simply no time to defend back. At the moment of a critical moment, a figure suddenly crashed over from the side, pushed me away hard. It was Old Gray.
His feet were firmly planted in the ground. Open your arms, like a wall blocking him fast, but refusing to fall. One person held up the largest fragment from that head. Old Gray let out a sound, a beast-like roar that had been suppressed for who knows how many years. Charging forward toward the fragments.
He held her tightly.
I will never let anyone die before me again. The raging energy instantly engulfed him.
But he also managed to win a few seconds for me and Ella. Ella's eyes reddened, but he didn't stop. He forcibly tore a path through the pile of fragments. I didn't look back. Let's be honest.
Trust is the most luxurious thing at this time. But it's also the most effective.
I desperately rushed up the stairs, with 3 minutes left on the formatting countdown.
He kicked open the mechanical doors of the clock tower. Boom! The massive sound of gears clinking was so loud it hurt everyone's ears.
The smell of engine oil and ozone hit the air. My eyes are like the highest precision scanners. Instantly scanned the entire structure. I found it in the main gear group that drives the minute hand. There was a mismatched silver little gear. The pointer was firmly gripped. Time always stops at 11 hours 59 minutes and 59 seconds. Just one last second.
The rules are not a 12-point reset at all. I shouted into the communicator. Rather, what if the hour hand never reaches 12? Time loops endlessly. Annie is not waiting for bad news. She waited for the promise she was waiting for but could never be fulfilled. The countdown downstairs was 10 seconds. The pillar of destruction has already gathered energy in the heavens. Everyone thought I would desperately push the hands forward.
I gripped that cold pointer tightly with both hands, muscles tensed. 4, 3, I am making a strong push, but the direction of my effort is not forward. Instead, it moves backward. A crisp huff sounded.
The stuck minute hand.
I was forced to take it from 11 hours 59 minutes and 59 seconds.
Rewind to 11 hours and 58 minutes. For a moment, the brake was completely slammed on. Crash. The whole world shattered like a mirror. The oppressive dusk in the sky shattered inch by inch, revealing the real blue sky and white clouds outside.
Time is imprisoned or above the high heavens. The pillar of destruction also vanished into thin air.
Old Gray collapsed beneath the clock tower, looking at the lively townspeople around it. Tears mixed with blood, and stains couldn't be stopped. Ella was even more stunned. The look in my eyes had shifted from shock to a feverish coward. Breaking the rules with violence is immortal.
Use rules to trick things.
In their eyes, rules are probably gods. I jumped off the gears.
Pick up the silver little gear I pulled out, cool and precise. Turn it over.
On the side, there was a small ash smaller than a sesame seed, a quill, and a star trail. My heart sank suddenly.
That was my mentor who had been missing for 5 years, Gregory von Heisenberg's private seal. This is not a natural disaster at all, but a man-made calamity. Back to the trade union. The entire hall was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Everyone looked at us. It all feels like watching monsters or S-class time prisons. This is something you can brag about for a lifetime.
Old Gray quit drinking completely.
Her smile was refreshing. Some things are more worth it than wine. Old man, I'm going to fight for my life. Ella fought the lioness of the Jihu calf hiding next to me. His gaze warned everyone who wanted to come closer. I couldn't be bothered with this invalid information.
He went straight back to the advisory office,
Closed the door and took out
the silver gear. Teacher, where exactly have you been?
I whispered. Are you guiding me or warning me? Suddenly, the alarm went off again. Don't rush.
Blood red text popped up on the big screen. The first art museum of the capital. The cafe under Van Gogh's Starry Sky experiences spatial distortion. Swallowed 30 living people. Even if the artist looks for just 3 more minutes, you'll be drawn in.
High-risk spaces. When we arrived at the scene,
The evolution sect had already surrounded the area so tightly that not even water could pass through. Leading the way was a burly man as tall as an iron tower. Vice president of the purification faction, Leighton. The person behind him was holding a runic flamethrower. You want to burn words?
Ella was anxious. Not really. Leighton sneered. Fossil nest people have unequal nutrients. He hatched 32 living people inside.
A woman's compassion and sacrifice for order are necessary. I couldn't stand it.
He stepped forward to stand by. The solution is either inefficient or incompetent. The audience was dead and silent.
Leighton turned his head and stared at me intently. The nerd said he encountered a bug. A qualified programmer's first reaction is debug. Instead of directly formatting the hard drive, you're called a low-level prisoner.
I pushed up my glasses. He hadn't even festered his muscles.
All right, she's quite stubborn.
Leighton laughed in anger. I'll give you 24 hours and it won't be delivered. What kind of rule are you talking about? The calibration department was immediately disbanded on the spot. I'll put it myself when the time comes. He clearly had an emergency space anomaly stacked under his lower set.
24 hours is simply a pipe dream. Sure, I simply threw out 2 words.
Words.
Leighton's smile froze on his face. It was like a punch hitting cotton. He could only snort coldly. He led his people back to watch the show. Ella lowered her voice anxiously. Lin Mo, this is a trap. I didn't speak, only staring at that painting. The starry sky in the painting looks like a whirlpool.
You have to suck people in.
Otherwise, Ella's analysis flashed for a moment. Not good. Leighton tampered with the rules of the painting.
Interference waves are injected.
He wanted us to die inside. Old Gray's face darkened as well. I looked at the spinning starry sky. His heart remained calm and undisturbed.
Never mind. I said any changes would leave traces at the rule level.
Take a purified step forward. We stepped directly onto the heavy oil paint. No vertigo, like a drop of water melting into the sea. The pebbles beneath my feet have a rough feel like brushes. The yellow lights of the cafe were dazzlingly bright.
The starry sky overhead looked like a massive whirlpool.
Rotate slowly.
So beautiful, but it was just too fake. Ella was so shaken she couldn't speak. Old Gray looked wary, but I don't have time to appreciate it. All my attention was on the outdoor seats.
Those 30 people on one person. They live, but more like a machine with a set program.
A man picked up his coffee and paused for 3 seconds,
letting go of the cycle repeatedly. There was a woman beside him. He kept tracing the same pattern on the table with his fingers. My soul was almost worn away. It all turned into repeated instruction assignments. This made me feel physically uncomfortable.
The soul signal is close to 0.
Ella looked at the data and said they were about to be assimilated. He raised his hand and fired a shot at the open space. Want to make a mark? Smack. A cloud of yellow paint sprayed out from the barrel.
Soft and slumped against the wall. Ella was dumbfounded. Tech equipment here has become a watercolor pen.
Old Gray didn't believe it.
He punched the iron chair.
Soft and fluffy like acrobatic cheese. After the chair deformed, it bounced back on its own. Physical attacks are useless either. At this moment, the chair on the ground crawled up like black oil. They turned into faceless figures, holding a sharp palette knife in her hand. Shadow Guard. That bastard Leighton added a malicious command. They treat us like viruses. Ella was both shocked and furious. The words did not fall. The guard had already rushed over. Old Gray rushed forward to block the blade. His arm was cut. The liquid was actually paint. Ella severed her wrist with a single stroke. As a result, those two sections of paint rolled on the ground.
It was pieced back together to its original form.
Kill, but not kill.
If it breaks up, it will be reassembled.
The two of them instantly fell into a fierce battle. Keep going like this. You'll definitely be worn down to death. I stand on the edge of the battlefield. Not a single step of the conversation. Take out your laptop and take notes quickly. They were just driving me away.
It's not that you want to kill me. They belong to the environment.
A drop of black, paint thrown away by Old Gray.
It landed on the blue rooftop nearby. It merged directly into it.
My pupils shrank.
Got it? Stop it, everyone.
I shouted. Ella and Old Gray were stunned. He knelt beside me, panting heavily. Stop it. Isn't that waiting for death? My monk pointed at those shadow guards who were about to pounce again. He gave a direct conclusion.
They are not enemies.
It's a firewall. Leighton's malicious command. Let the painting treat us like an invading virus.
These guards are his immune system.
To break the deadlock, you can't force the virus to be eliminated.
I pushed up my glasses.
Looking at his teammates with faces full of disbelief, said lightly,
We must prove to the system that we are a healthy procedure. A benign procedure. Ella was stunned. Paint was still dripping from the knife in his hand.
His mind couldn't get around the point. Old Gray was also stunned. He only knew not to fight back. The two of them were about to be worn down to death. Put down your weapons.
I'm not talking nonsense. The tone is unquestionable. Stop all attacks. Old Gray glanced at his own bone-deep wound. He glanced at me again. Gritting his teeth, he was the first to loosen his fist.
Ella took a deep breath.
He also put away his words. Sure enough, a strange scene unfolded. Just as they gave up resisting,
those furious shadow guards seemed to have been hit on pause. They all stopped in their places. The murderous intent completely faded away. They transformed into shadowy figures.
Surround us. Only monitor, not attack. My reasoning is correct. Ella and Old Gray exchanged a glance. His face was full of shock.
Facing a group of deadly anomalies.
Just put down the gun and you'll be fine. That sounds absurd, but it was a fact. They are protecting this painting. Ella finally looked back at the future. At this moment,
the starry sky above changed overhead.
Countless stars and deep blue nebulae.
It was like being held by a magnet. Quickly gather sweet potatoes. In the blink of an eye, a huge man's face appeared in the sky. She was haggard and sorrowful, revealing a loneliness deep in her bones. He looked down at me and sighed. Another group of people who don't understand me. The words just fell.
The world fades in an instant.
The cafe's starry sky was completely gone. The next second, we were pulled into a dimly lit room. A special cage full of the scent of paint. This is the memory space.
Without waiting for them to react,
the scene flashed by like a silent film. The young painter happily climbed the sunflowers. Yet critics mocked her as a vulgar, doting mother. He sketches on the streets. The child threw stones at him. The adults called him mad. Only under dim lighting. He was reading the letter, and living expenses sent.
Brother Theo.
Only then will there be light in your eyes. A lifetime of talent. A lifetime of misunderstanding. The final scene froze on his lonely silhouette. He gazed out at the starry sky. He raised his brush.
The illusion shattered. We returned to the attic.
Everyone felt a heavy weight in their hearts. I understand.
I pushed up my glasses.
Directly exposing the truth. The rules of this phrase are not attacks at all, but fairy tales. I watched as the two of them continued speaking. The world doesn't understand me. I have created only your world. This is the core logic. If the person coming in can't keep up, his aesthetic will be formatted. It becomes an unconscious backdrop in the painting. That method just now, Ella asked. That was thanks to Leighton.
I sneered. It injects malicious instruction systems. They immediately identified us as a supervirus. So it triggers the immune system. Leighton wants to screw us down. But instead, it helped me fully understand the underlying defense logic of this place. It's ironic. I walk to the corner, pick up the only brush on the easel with a corpse.
We can't get out because we always see ourselves as spectators and saboteurs. I raised my pen and looked at them.
From now on, we are going to be creators.
I looked at Ella.
Your mechanical engineering is the ultimate beauty of construction. He looked at Gray again. You travel far and wide. The most magnificent natural beauty I have ever seen. We need to refine its rules.
Filling in his regrets.
After saying this, the scene suddenly shifted. We returned to Starry Street.
Those guards were still there.
But now, it was more like a group of silent spectators. I actually knew.
Walking toward the huge blank canvas in the northwest corner of the paint, I got a bit of the brightest golden yellow. He raised his hand and drew the first stroke. There is no physical logic at all. Only the vitality of wild growth.
Hiding within the painting, he painted a sunflower blooming toward the nebula.
They want to be recognized. I stared at the canvas. It was also meant to be shared with everyone. First, you have to acknowledge it. Golden drops fall, like sunlight, piercing through the long night.
The sunflowers bloom.
The giant face in the sky composed of stars, was stunned. A hint of curiosity flashed in his sad eyes.
The whole sentence was filled with a suffocating, oppressive feeling.
It loosened instantly.
Ella looked at the sunflower.
He glanced again at his useless mechanical arm. He seemed to understand. He took a deep breath.
Pick up the brush. He didn't understand art, but he understands gears. He closed his eyes.
When I opened it again,
Right next to the windmill in the painting,
he drew an extremely complex set of gears.
the clockwork man finished his final stroke.
The windmill, which had been stationary for who knows how long, actually started spinning. A breeze blew. The world began to flow. Old Gray stared wide-eyed in shock. He suddenly snatched the paintbrush.
Dipped in blue and white pigments,
He slashed fiercely toward the street. Splash! A clear stream emerged.
he casually tapped twice more.
Several birds soared into the sky. It emitted a crisp cry.
A heartbeat began to feel in the dead silence. It was as if a chain reaction had erupted.
Outside the cafe,
Those visitors who had already been assimilated into puppets
all were awakened by the shock. A musician picked up his pen in confusion.
drew a treble mark,
The air was filled with the sound of a zither. Ballet dancers painted dance shoes.
dancing in the streets. Botanists painted exotic flowers and plants next to the sunflowers. Everyone is filling the world with their own way. Boom, the world in the painting has completely taken off. The colors are dazzlingly bright. The starry sky spun enthusiastically.
The malice on those shadow guards vanished completely.
They melted into pure paint.
Seeps into the earth, nourishing the world.
Meanwhile,
Inside the museum outside, look, the painting is moving.
a shout of surprise erupted in the frenzy. Everyone stared intently at the wall.
A cafe once worn by a starry sky. He grew a golden sunflower field himself.
The windmill is turning.
The water lingers and endures. Birds are flying.
The oppressive tones become warm and full of hope. This is not a rule anomaly. This is a living miracle. At the edge of the crowd, Leighton stared at the painting
On the wall. The face was blue. He had imagined we would be torn apart. We'll be assimilated. But I never expected that we were actually finishing this painting. He originally intended to use a borrowed knife to kill someone. The theory of proving one's violent removal is correct, but the trap he set himself put us on a pedestal. And at the same time, he repeatedly rubbed his ideas into the ground. Leighton clenched his fists tightly.
He was so angry he almost spat out a mouthful of old blood.
And in the conversation, up in the sky, Van Gogh's giant face showed a childlike smile. Starlight turned into tears falling down. It turned into a brilliant meteor shower. Thank you. His voice was filled with immense relief. You saw my world. The words just fell. A white light appeared. The entire world within the painting begins to become transparent. Now, just as we were about to break away, a streak of light flew from Van Gogh's brow. He crawled straight into my hand. It is a deep blue pigment crystal.
Here's a piece of paint from
From the sea of rules. The white light dissipated. We landed steadily back on the marble floor of the museum.
31 visitors.
The three of us, plus the painter. Van Gogh is safe. The painting on the wall had completely changed. I immediately feel a sense of emptiness. Only the sacred aesthetic of art remains.
She was healed. It's you, it's you. Van Gogh was so excited he was like a madman. He grabbed my hand tightly.
His eyes were full of gratitude. You did not destroy him.
You have completed it.
It healed my soul.
This sentence was like a solid slap in the face.
He slapped Laydon in the face in public.
Healing is not elimination.
Completion is not purification. But that's not all.
President. Suddenly, the technical director's cold voice rang through the on-site communication channel. The audience was instantly quiet. The test results are out. The painting suddenly went on a rampage and upgraded.
It was because of Vice President Layton's mental disruptors. Malicious commands were injected inside. Boom. The crowd completely exploded.
Voted. Abusing power and framing colleagues. This is a capital offense in the guild.
100 glances stabbed at him like knives.
His face changed from purple to gray.
Completely pale, in the face of ironclad evidence. He couldn't argue with him. The broadcast carried the president's heartless verdict. Layton abused his power.
Immediately transfer out of position.
Detained by the law enforcement team, pending investigation. 2 black-clad law enforcement officers stepped forward. He directly held Layton off.
He didn't resist. Just separated by the crowd. She stared at me with eyes full of unwillingness and obsession. I calmly pushed up my glasses. I don't bother to pay attention to him. Using disorderly malice to enforce the rules of order.
This in itself is arrogance and foolishness. The Evolution faction members were all successful.
Frostbeaten eggplant. He lowered his head, not daring to make a sound. Then the guild leader's voice cut into our squad's private channel.
Lin Mo, the facts prove.
Your rule calibration is correct.
From today,
Your independent department forms a union.
give them the highest resources, go all out.
Ella and Old Gray were
Overjoyed. We beat Mom now. I just gave a faint hum. He touched the blue pigment crystal in his pocket.
Once you get your hands on this thing,
My sensitivity to the rules instantly doubled.
it's definitely a legendary headpiece. 1. Tonight, I'm treating you until you're drunk. Ella excitedly punched Old Gray in the chest. Old Gray laughed heartily.
All right, today let's show these people who are the real ace. Look at them. I couldn't help but curl the corner of my mouth into a smile. But just as the atmosphere was at its peak, oomph, The front door was suddenly slammed open.
Open.
Her name is Lina, the union's psychological counselor.
The photos showed no sign of him on the verge of collapse. Dr. Lina, calm down.
Ella quickly supported her. I can't calm down.
Lina cried her heart out. Something happened at the Sacred Heart Orphanage. My younger brother, Dean Leo, he doesn't remember, and neither do I, Leo. This eliminates class rule exceptions. Old Gray's expression instantly darkened. This thing is definitely much more troublesome than just attacking with a knife.
I didn't speak.
Just look at him.
My brain has already started to analyze automatically. The target is the Sacred Heart Orphanage. The phenomenon is the existence of a specific individual Leo. Information was erased. I can barely remember what he looked like.
Lina held her head.
The voice was full of despair. Keep going like this. I would forget him too. As soon as he said this, Ella and Old Gray's expressions froze. Even his closest sister began to be affected. The erosion of the rules is accelerated. I only said 2 words. Get in.
No consolation.
No nonsense.
They immediately understood.
Lina, barely able to stand, caught up with me. I let Lina in. What they valued was his extraordinary empathy. In my opinion, extreme emotions are also a rule variable that can be exploited. The steam-powered car raced through the night.
After 15 minutes,
we arrived at the entrance of the Sacred Heart Orphanage. It was eerily quiet here.
What's even more wrong is that
antique mirrors everywhere in the orphanage.
Dressing mirrors, oval mirrors, and dressing mirrors each have their own styles.
But both exuded a chilling chill.
The energy field was extremely chaotic.
Ella's scanner sizzled, completely useless.
A timid little girl poked her head out from behind the door.
Are you here to capture the shadow person? Shadow man. Ella crouched down and asked her. The little girl pointed at a large mirror at the end of the corridor, almost in tears. Annie was dragged in by the shadow figure in the mirror. Then we can't remember who Annie is. The clues are obvious.
The problem lies in these mirrors.
At this moment, Lena's body suddenly stiffened. He stared intently at the huge dressing mirror. His pupils contracted to pinpoint points. Come on. We followed his gaze. The image of a frail little boy appeared in the mirror.
She wore the orphanage uniform. His face was full of tears.
He was frightened and pounding on the mirror, a silent plea for help. No doubt. That's his brother. Come on, come on, come on. Lena's sanity instantly broke. She screamed like a mad mother beast. Recklessly, he rushed toward the mirror. Don't go over. Ella's warning was already too late. The terror on Leo's face in the mirror.
In an instant, it turned into a strange smile.
He slowly extended a hand made of pure shadow. It was as if he was about to see through the mirror to greet his sister. Just as Lena's fingers were about to touch the mirror,
a burly figure lunged out from the side. It was Old Gray. He didn't even have time to use the weapon in the most primitive way.
His whole body crashed hard into Lina. He held her and rolled on the ground several times. He narrowly avoided that fatal touch. The shadowy hand in the mirror grabbed at empty air. A sinister laugh, unlike any human, suddenly erupted from deep within the mirror. The next second,
throughout the entire orphanage,
all the mirrors simultaneously burst with dazzling white light.
The surrounding space begins to twist and fold. Walls, ceilings, floors. Everything is dissolving and reconstructing. When the light fades, we were already walking down the corridor of the orphanage. We find ourselves in an infinite maze made up of countless mirrors. In all directions.
All top, bottom, left and right are smooth mirrors. Reflecting thousands upon thousands of reflections. It's impossible to tell which is real, which is false.
Damn, Ella raised the scanner.
The screen was left with only a patch of garbled text.
His tech equipment here became a pile of scrap metal. Lina collapsed to the ground.
The color drained from his face. Because of his earlier recklessness, he fell into overwhelming guilt. Old Gray stood in front of him.
He looked around warily.
In the chaos, only I remained unmoved. I calmly looked at my reflection in the mirror.
That Tao maiden who looks exactly like me. He pulled out a notebook and a fountain pen from his pocket. The sound of a top hat being pulled out. In this deathly silent maze, the clarity was especially clear.
Under the watchful gazes of his teammates, whether desperate or wary, I pushed on my glasses.
On that brand new page,
wrote the first entry into this distorted world. It is also the core rule.
He reflects cognition. What do you think he is? He is what he is.
The moment I wrote that line, the entire mirror maze came alive. The ground suddenly sank. Then came a dizzying sensation. Hold on tight. Old Gray roared angrily.
Each hand grabbed Lina and Ella one by one, but it didn't work. The mirror beneath our feet suddenly shattered.
It turned into a huge vortex. Everyone was dragged into the mess. A sense of weightlessness came through.
We were instantly scattered.
Let me steady myself.
Find yourself isolated alone in a pure white space. In all directions, there was an endless mirror-like surface. I wasn't in a hurry to find teammates.
Nor did they attempt to attack.
I just stood where I was.
He issued a command in his mind.
Behind me was a wall. I turned around and reached out my hand.
Sure enough, he touched a cold, hard corpse.
I gave a second order.
The exit is on the left. The mirror on the left side spreads out like ripples of water,
forming a wooden door.
I pushed the door open.
Behind the door is the same pure white space, and the calm self in the mirror who also pushed open the door. I see.
I closed the door. Everything was restored to its original state. I completely understood the core cognitive trap here. I wrote in my notebook.
The more you long to escape the exit, this concept is then exploited by rules. It leads you deeper into the maze. He feeds on forgetting, and took despair as a form of concession. I no longer waste time.
Start constructing a map of the orphanage in your mind. Calculate the locations where teammates are most likely to get trapped.
A few minutes later, I pushed open a mirror.
Like passing through a layer of mist. It appeared exactly in the space where Old Gray and Lena were. The scene before them was tragic. Old Gray's back was covered in shards of glass, still holding on tightly. Lena held her head.
His expression was blank, muttered to himself. I can't recall what AO looks like. Her voice was soft.
Are her eyebrows thick or thin? She smiled, wondering if there were dimples.
I don't remember.
Lena's memories were being rapidly consumed by the rules. Lin Mo, think of a way quickly.
Old Gray turned around.
His eyes were bloodshot and despairing.
I ignored him.
He walked straight up to Lena.
Grabbed her shoulder. The force was so strong that she felt pain.
Look at me. She looked up in confusion. Stop thinking about how to get out.
Stop thinking about how to fight. My voice is not loud.
But the words are clear. His rule is reflective cognition. The more you resist, the stronger he is.
The more you forget.
The more energy he absorbed, the more energy he absorbed.
But Leo, what you're doing now isn't saving him. They were killing him. I increased my tone. Lena's body trembled violently. A trace of anxiety returned to his pupils.
Seeing him sober up for a moment, I let go and stood up, looking around at this prison made of despair. We have always played with him using his logic. Now it's time for the game to end.
I said, we have to do it. It is forcibly covering our understanding with its rules. Old Gray and Lena were both stunned. Obviously, he didn't understand.
I don't bother to explain. He raised his hand and pointed toward the depths of the maze. There countless mirror-like intersections intersect. A largest dressing mirror flickered faintly. In the mirror floated the painful, blurred faces of a dozen children.
That is the soul of all those who are devoured imprisoning me. The lens reflected the faint glow of the main mirror.
His tone was resolute, as if issuing the final verdict.
Don't go looking for Leo. Instead, to prove Leo's existence.
The only weapon against forgetting.
Its memory itself. My words fell.
Lena's chaotic mind felt as if a huge stone had been thrown into it. He shuddered violently.
A faint glimmer reignited in those eyes, soaked in despair, proving Leo's presence. He muttered to himself.
He resolutely closed his eyes.
However, the malice of the rules came far faster than expected. The entire mirror maze emitted a piercing roar.
Lena's act of closing her eyes was judged by the rules as the most thorough character. You have already forgotten me. You don't care about me at all.
Countless expressions on Leo's reflections in the mirror instantly turned ferocious. The sound transforms into tangible sonic shocks.
It crashed down like a tsunami. Lina felt as if she had been hit hard.
A mouthful of blood spurted out.
His face instantly turned deathly pale. Lin Mo. Old Gray's eyes were bloodshot.
Execute the command. My voice showed no fluctuation. Gray, Ella, protect Lena. This is the cognitive defense battle. He is at our core.
Received. Ella shouted angrily. Cross your hands over your chest. He poured out all the runic energy within his body without holding back. A translucent golden barrier instantly unfolded.
It enveloped Lena and Old Gray. Thump Dong Dong's invisible sonic shockwave slammed hard against the barrier. It stirred up intense ripples. Ella's forehead veins bulged. Clearly, it was very light. Old Gray has demonstrated through his actions what it means to protect the enemy. He stepped forward in front of Lena.
Arms spread wide. You can fill the fragments with your own hands. A bloodied and mangled back. Heading toward the strongest impact, with teammates building a defensive line with their lives.
Lena finally steadied herself. He endured the intense pain of his soul being torn apart.
He began desperately trying to reconstruct it deep in his mind.
That planet that belonged to his brother.
Leon. His voice trembled, but it was incredibly clear.
He is 7 years old this year. She likes to eat strawberry cake. He hates eating carrots. The words just fell.
The entire mirror maze suddenly trembled.
Lena's breathing grew rapid. He knew it would work.
He continued to explain.
The voice is getting louder and louder.
Growing more and more resolute. He has a scar on his knee. It was last summer when I fell off my bike. The stray bullet boom.
Another violent tremor.
On the walls of the maze.
A clear crack appeared in response.
His favorite toy.
It was the teddy bear missing one ear.
He called him General Doer. He liked to kick off the blanket while sleeping. The paintings always.
The sun blew.
Every detail is like a red-hot iron, burning hard against the rules of the mirror maze.
Linami said.
The maze's vibrations became even more intense. Countless mirrors began to crack.
The scales of victory seemed to tip in our favor. Yet I frowned.
I saw the corners of Lena's mouth and nostrils. Even blood began to seep from his ears. His mental energy was being rapidly drained. At the same time, Ella's barrier glows dimmer. Old Gray's body also began to shake. His cognitive weight is still insufficient.
A person's memory is a stream. It can be cut off. It can be exhausted.
We must fight against this ocean made of forgetting. What is needed is a true river. I didn't hesitate in the slightest. Launched the team training period ZZ. I am Lin Mo, a specially appointed consultant for the Procedures Workers Union. My voice is transmitted through radio waves. The message instantly returned to the orphanage's advisor director Lin trembled as he picked up the walkie-talkie.
Dean, listen to me. My speech speed is not fast.
But every word carries undeniable power. Now I need your help and all the children. Help us. What can we do? Even if it feeds on forgetting, the more we forget,
the stronger he is.
So the only way to combat it is memory security. The room was deathly silent. My voice sounded again. This time, he carried an almost commanding authority. Right now, let all the kids tell me. All about the stories of those missing children. What are their names? What to like? What to hate? What embarrassing things to do? What a dream. Not a single detail can be missing. Not a single name can be forgotten. Use the memories of all of you to fight against his forgetting. The director's hand trembled even more. He looked at the terrified faces around him. For a moment, he was at a loss. It was in this suffocating silence. A timid yet crisp child's voice broke the silence.
A little girl with pigtails, holding the words tightly in his arms.
He mustered up his courage and whispered into the communicator. I remember Annie. Her voice was like a stone thrown into the still, undying silence. It stirred ripples of all hope. The horn of memory's counterattack was officially sounded at this moment.
That crisp child's voice. A drop of water was dropped into the boiling oil. It instantly ignited the entire safe house. I also remember Tom. He's the best at hide-and-seek.
And Susan. His singing is the best.
Jack secretly hid the director's wig before. A boy's voice was choked with tears, but she couldn't help but laugh.
One name after another.
One embarrassing incident after another. One dream after another. Through a small communicator, it gathers into a surging torrent of memories. Boom 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 rumble to a halt. The maze has gone crazy. Every memory is like a bombshell, smashing hard into every corner of the maze.
The smooth mirror surface wildly showed spiderweb-like cracks. Then, with a crash, it shattered into countless fragments. The entire space was violently shaking and collapsing. This false world built on forgetting.
It is mercilessly crushed by the weight of memory.
My gaze was fixed on the deepest part of the maze.
The only undamaged central primary mirror.
The faces of the missing children, originally blurred and pained, reflected in the mirror. In this chorus of memories, it becomes clearer and clearer. The rules are being reversed. A piercing scream erupted from the central stillness.
The mirror surface twisted violently.
A mirror figure pieced together from countless broken reflections. He was forcibly forced out by this powerful torrent of memories. He is someone who distorts the rules, a pitiful creation that exists only by stealing from others. Forgetting must be forgotten.
The mirror man roared.
He condensed all remaining power into a jet black stream. Recklessly, it shot toward the core node of the entire memory network.
Lena. Wow. Lena let out a piercing, agonized scream.
Blood gushed from all 7 orifices simultaneously. Ella's energy barrier lasted less than half a second. It shattered with a cracking sound. Old Gray's eyes were bloodshot.
He let out a beast-like roar.
Without hesitation, he directly used his own flesh and blood. He firmly blocked Lena's path. Oof. The invisible impact slammed hard into Old Gray's back. He fell forward like a kite with a broken string.
But at the very last moment of collapse, he held Lena's leg tightly. This offset most of the shock for him.
Ella was also sent flying backward by the aftershock. He crashed heavily against the cracked mirror wall and lost consciousness.
The battle situation took a dramatic turn in an instant. It's useless. Lena's gaze became unfocused again. He felt memories of his brother in his mind.
Being speedily deleted. Finished. Yet, in this suffocating despair,
my voice remained calm.
Not a ripple at all. I looked at that madly roaring
mirror. The person pushed up his glasses.
Calmly reveals the final mystery. Its rule is, I reflect so I exist.
He has no self.
So they frantically steal others' existence. We covered his forgetting with stronger memories. He loses the foundation of his existence. My voice reached everyone's ears clearly. So now he's just a program on the verge of collapse.
Just executing the final counterattack.
I glanced over the fallen Gray.
Ayla, weak.
Finally, it fell on Lena. Conventional methods caused too many casualties. The efficiency is also too low. Rules must be calibrated. You must find the lowest treasure. I thought of the most effective way to get back at the root. Lena, my voice suddenly rose. Can you still write?
Lena shuddered all over. He nodded with difficulty.
Very good.
I stretched out my finger, under everyone's shocked gazes.
He pointed toward the center where the furious roar was raging. Zhu Jing now walked up to him.
Write your brother's name on the mirror with your fingers.
Gray and Ella looked at me as if I were crazy. Let him touch the aberration of his true body.
Isn't this suicide? I ignore them. He just stared intently at Lena. In an almost hypnotic tone, he uttered the words that would completely overturn the course of battle. You have to believe, it's not a trap.
Nor is it the essence of some rule. It's just a piece of glass. That almost hypnotic sentence, like a red-hot steel needle. He fiercely pierced into Lena's consciousness.
Was about to collapse. Moment.
All around was the roaring,
growling, and muffled
groans.
Everything receded like the tide.
In his world, Only I remained. Those eyes still shone astonishingly amid the chaos. And that command, which defies common sense. He is just a piece of glass. He watched as he blocked every impact for him. Old Gray, half kneeling on the ground, looking at Ella struggling to get up in the distance. Finally, his gaze pierced through the crumbling space, ended up at the end of the maze.
There.
After the Mirror Man was plunged into unprecedented rage and fear because of my words, he gave up eroding Lena's spirit, condense all energy into a pitch-black shadow vortex. Recklessly, he lunged at Lena. This was his final attack. Be careful, Ella roared as she warned.
Old Gray suddenly looked up.
A trace of resoluteness flashed across his face.
He pushed Lena backward. He himself was like an enraged lion. He charged fiercely into the shadowy vortex. Gray! Lena let out a startled cry. A thunderous boom was heard with an extremely dull boom, exploding deep within everyone's souls. The shadow vortex slammed hard into Old Gray's chest. He was instantly sent flying backward. He smashed 3 or 4 mirror walls.
Finally, it crashed heavily into the ruins. I don't know if he's alive or dead. Ella also suffered from the energy backlash. He let out a muffled groan. He completely passed out.
The whole world seems to have been pressed on mute. Lena stood there in a daze. Fear and sadness instantly overwhelmed his heart.
It was that moment of wavering.
The central primary mirror so close at hand caught the crack in his face. The mirror surface twisted wildly. A powerful suction force came from within. He wanted to completely devour Lena. Finished. Just then, his body uncontrollably fell forward.
At the critical moment, when he was about to be sucked into the mirror.
He is reflecting your fears.
Lena, my roar was like a thunderclap.
It shattered all the distractions in his heart. Believe that he is just a window. Your brother is waiting for you on the other side of the window. The younger brother went home.
In Lena's mind, suddenly, the smiling face of a 7-year-old boy appeared. Sister, when I grow up, I will protect you. An unprecedented force. From the deepest part of his soul, it surged forth.
Yes.
Lena let out a heart-wrenching scream. There was no fear in that voice, only endless anger and resolve.
She stopped leaning forward.
Under the astonished gaze of the Mirror Man, he resolutely extended his right hand.
He struck the index finger stained with his own blood.
He pressed it heavily against the cold, slippery mirror.
Not devoured. It hasn't been corroded. All I felt at my fingertips was glass. That hard and cold sensation.
It's really just a piece of glass. This thought was like a seed. In his heart, it instantly grew into a towering tree.
He no longer hesitated. He was seen carrying an unwavering determination, stroke by stroke on the smooth mirror surface.
He wrote the name he would never forget with his own blood. E-O. The moment when the last rounded letter perfectly connects with the 7 Venus. Time seemed to stand still. The next second,
Lena's fingertips burst forth, shining brighter than the sun, warm and radiant light. No, the Mirror Man let out a desperate scream. Their bodies were made up of countless shadows. In that pure glow, inch by inch, it melts and decomposes.
Ultimately vanished into nothingness.
Crack, crash.
Centered on central centrality and stillness.
The entire still maze.
All remaining bands. At the same time, a crisp cracking sound rang out.
They gently transformed into billions of beams of light,
falling in swirling streams. It was like a dazzling snowfall. The light faded away.
The twisted maze disappeared. The orphanage corridors were restored to their original appearance. In front of Lena, the central master of the center was no longer twisted at this moment.
He stood there quietly.
The mirror no longer reflects anything.
Instead, it became like a flawless, massive crystal, transparent and pure.
Through the crystal-like mirror's
surface,
a gray, empty room appeared before everyone.
All the missing children, even Leo, lay quietly on the gray ground. It was as if he had simply fallen into a deep sleep. They were saved.
Lena's legs went weak, slumped on the ground. Tears streamed down like a dam.
I breathed a sigh of relief.
Pushed the glasses. Start recording the final data in a notebook.
Ahem. Ella struggled to prop herself up halfway. A faint, bitter smile appeared on his face, as if he had survived a disaster. The joy of victory had yet to spread. A more realistic problem lay before everyone.
That crystal mirror seemed like an insurmountable barrier, completely isolating the two worlds.
Ella was panting.
He asked weakly.
Now how do we get them out?
Ella asked weakly. This cast a shadow over the newly risen hope. Yeah, did he win?
But the fruits of victory were sealed away by an impenetrable barrier. Lena tried to press her hand against the crystal-like mirror, but what came was a coldness that cut everything out. Ella gritted her teeth. He raised the rune spear in his hand, whose energy was nearly depleted.
Gathering the last faint ray of light,
pulled the trigger.
However, the moment the energy beam touched the mirror,
just like a clay ox entering the sea, it vanished without a sound.
Ella's pupils suddenly contracted.
The last trace of color on his face faded completely. This is not indestructible on a physical level.
This is complete invalidity at the rule level. It's over, and his rules have changed. Ella slumped her arms down. I finally turned around. He walked up to the huge crystal mirror. We cover forgetting with memories.
Presence covers the reflection. I spoke as I quickly jotted down notes in my notebook. Therefore, the core rule of distortion is that reflection is absent. It has become a prison that cognition is a cage. Cognition of the prison.
Lina looked up in confusion. It was simple.
I pushed on my glasses, because we all saw it with our own eyes, and deep down he firmly believed.
They were trapped on the other side of the mirror, so they got stuck. Our cognition constitutes this new one, an unbreakable cage. This explanation made Lina and the just-awakened old Gray. Everyone felt a chill run down their spine.
Saving their fate. But now, it had become a shackle imprisoning them.
Well, then we now believe they have come out, can't you?
Lina asked anxiously. No way.
I firmly deny it.
Believing out of thin air is a delusion. The rules do not accept such self-deceptive instructions, so we must give the rules a new, logical one.
He was an instruct he could not refuse.
My vision extended beyond the future.
Those sleeping lakes. It fell on that empty gray background. It is an absolute, unforgotten universe. No drafts of any physical laws have yet been written.
I see. The mirror devours their existence. They were banished into this vacuum of rules. We have returned existence to them through memory, but they have not yet reconnected with our space. One is crazy to the extreme, yet it logically achieves a perfectly closed-loop concept. It quickly took shape in my mind.
Since the core of this distortion is reflection, I murmured softly to myself. A smile curled at the corner of his mouth that others found hard to understand. It reflects cognition. Why can't we reflect our physical world? As soon as this thought came to mind, I stopped paying attention to the main mirror in front of me, under everyone's confused gaze.
I turned and walked straight toward the other wall of the core. There hung a simple oval-shaped dressing mirror, because it was too ordinary.
Instead, everyone overlooked him. I stood in front of that ordinary mirror,
looking at his calm face in the mirror.
And behind him, the ruins and the tired faces of his teammates, and that crystal mirror reflecting the gray space.
A perfect mirrored world. I took a deep breath.
He gave orders to his teammates behind him in an unquestioning tone.
Ella is picking up your scanner.
Give up analyzing the main mirror. I aimed at the ordinary mirror in front of me at maximum power.
Ella was stunned.
But looking at my profile, without a hint of joke.
He did as inexplicably as told.
Gray, hey, head, I'm preparing to pick someone up. Who are you picking up? Old Gray suddenly struck hard. I didn't answer him.
His gaze shone through the mirror.
It fell on Lina's face, full of nervousness and anticipation. My final voice was gentle, yet it is filled with unshakable strength.
Lina, get ready to bring your brother home. Absurd.
That was the only thought in Ella's mind. Use the Union's top scanner to scan an ordinary dressing mirror. This was actually more useful than making him admit to those Evolution faction members, and make him feel insulted.
But looking at my emotionless profile.
All his doubtful words. In the end, he forced himself to swallow it back.
This man started with a book of logical paradoxes. This allows a highly difficult rule anomaly to be controllably resolved. Save a small town with a reverse clock. His logic had long surpassed what he could understand. Received. Ella squeezed out 2 words through gritted teeth, struggling to pick up the device.
He pointed his camera at the plain oval-shaped mirror. Old Gelly leaned against the wall and coughed up a mouthful of bloody saliva. His eyes were equally filled with confusion. Pick up people. There wasn't even a ghost figure here. Where to pick someone up? But he didn't ask anything.
He simply stood up straight in silence, striking a posture ready to sprint at any moment. Unconditional trust comes after witnessing miracles time and again. A meme etched into its bones. The energy pulse is excited, at the lowest power point of a single point.
My voice was calm and precise. Ella did as told. A faint pulse of energy, almost invisible to the naked eye. It hit the surface of that ordinary mirror. The next second, on the scanner screen, data streams refresh wildly. The 2 peaks are exactly the same.
But the signal waveform is in completely opposite phases, presented clearly before everyone. Ella's breath caught instantly.
He understood that the core rules of the mirror maze had not disappeared. Instead, it has degenerated and solidified into its most primitive form. Perfect reflection. I didn't even look at the screen. It was as if this outcome had already been in my calculations.
This means anything we do in the real world, all will be in the world in the mirror. Generate a completely equal reflection world. He no longer distorts our understanding.
He simply faithfully copies everything. Lina covered her mouth. An unbelievable light burst forth in his eyes. I didn't give him time to think.
He had already picked up the communicator to call the director. Can you hear me? Yes. Are you the person handling the procedure?
The children are safe. I interrupted him. Now listen to my orders.
Go open the orphanage's main gate immediately. Completely open. Execute immediately. Yes, I'll go right away. A few seconds later.
The sound of the door hinge turning and the director's reply came through the communicator. Sir, the door is now fully open. Fine, stay at the door, don't leave. I cut off communication. He turned around and looked again at the oval-shaped dressing mirror. The mirror clearly reflects the scene behind us. The crystal main mirror that imprisons the children. And that isolated gray room in the main mirror. I reached out and tapped my finger on the cold mirror.
The mirror world is the path of the real world. So in the real world, the orphanage's doors were already open. In that gray space
belonged to the children.
And inevitably, because of the rules of perfect reflection.
A corresponding reflection gate made of rules appears. The last 4 words were powerful and powerful. Ella and Old Gray's pupils dilated to the extreme.
It felt as if all the blood in their bodies had frozen. A force of combat power beyond words. From the soles of my feet straight up to the crown of my head. This is not brute force cracking at all, nor is it about converting energy into goods.
This is a thorough battle.
Space grafting using the world's underlying bugs.
I ignored their shock. His gaze finally settled on Lena. For the first time, his tone carried a hint of warmth.
He immediately straightened up abruptly. Tears welled up in his eyes. I turned to the huge crystal main mirror.
The final order was issued.
Wake him up now. Tell him to open the door. Lena could no longer hold back her emotions. He suddenly charged in front of the crystal main realm.
Her hands pressed hard against the cold mirror.
Use all your strength, he shouted loudly, his voice choked with tears. Leo, wake up. Go to the door.
Go to the door.
Hurry to the door.
Sister is waiting at the door for you to come home, calling out again and again, breaking through the barriers of rules, precisely poured into the soul of that sleeping boy. In the quiet gray room, the boy named Leo, her long eyelashes fluttered slightly. He opened his eyes in confusion.
All that could be seen was a blank gray waste. No sound. There is no light. Only endless loneliness. Just as he instinctively wanted to cry.
He saw it.
Right in front of him, on the smooth, mirror-like gray wall. A door frame made of pure, warm golden light. Something was slowly emerging out of nothing. Inside the door is the direction of home.
That door made of pure light, quietly suspended in the eternal gray. Fear is replaced by craving. Leo took small steps, walking toward that warmth. The moment his tender palm touched the portal of light, he didn't hesitate. He dove straight in. At the entrance of the orphanage, the old director anxiously rubbed his hands, just when he was about to lose hope.
The change suddenly occurred. The air in front of the porch felt like water with stones thrown into the water. It twisted extremely slightly. The next second, a little boy wearing a striped hospital gown.
It appeared out of thin air within the threshold. Dean, Grandpa. Leo's voice carried a hint of uncertainty.
Come on.
The old dean shuddered all over. It was as if struck by lightning. He rubbed his presbyopia hard.
Make sure you're not dreaming. This was a shout that should have started to fade in my memory.
He stood right in front of him, alive and alive. He appeared here out of thin air.
Oh my God. The old dean let out a voice mixed with ecstasy and shock. And this is just the beginning.
Follow closely. The second and third children.
They are like children coming home from school. They lined up one after another through that invisible door. Appeared in the hall of the orphanage. This was no strange, instant scene.
This was clearly a grand and silent welcoming ceremony. Deep in the corridor, Ella and Old Gray stared blankly at the scene. Mentally, I was overwhelmed by an emotion called shock. In the face of such a miracle, everything he believed in seemed so ridiculous, so primitive.
This is no longer a fight. This is creation.
Old Gray's heavy breathing.
It was especially clear in the empty corridor.
He looked at the one Lena was holding tightly in his arms. Come and cry out loud. This man who had shed all his blood and tears. Her eyes were actually slightly moist. He suddenly understood.
I saved more than just these children. And even more so, he was a veteran struggling in Blood Rain Valley. That little bit of remnant item for order and hope. A thunderous boom.
It interrupted everyone's thoughts. That crystal main mirror that imprisoned all the children. At the moment the last child returns to the real world, spiderweb-like cracks began to appear on the mirror's surface. Crack, crack. The crisp sound of shattering echoed throughout the orphanage.
All the mirrors that had previously emitted a distorted aura. At the same moment, they were restored to their original appearances. That power of rules enveloping the entire orphanage.
Receding like the tide.
Vanish.
The crisis was lifted.
Raina held her younger brother.
Crying like a child.
She lifted her tear-streaked face.
Something you want to say to me, but thank you all.
All the admiration finally choked up, turning into a deep bow. No words needed. This temporary squad.
An unbreakable trust had already been established between them. Ella leaned wearily against the wall. He breathed a long sigh of relief, bending down, ready to pick up the forgotten scanner.
But just as his fingertips were about to touch the cold shell,
the scanner's screen lit up without warning. Not a normal standby Blu-ray,
but rather a highly aggressive form of data called Lily Light. What is it?
Ella was startled. Take a step back abruptly.
Those frantically scrolling on the screen.
Characters not belonging to any known civilization. It was as if an invisible hand was controlling her to swell rapidly. The final line of editing. The linguistic language was icy cold yet carried supreme authority, slowly appearing in the center of the screen.
Ella instinctively picked up the device. Pupil's contract. He read each line out of the line deliberately. His voice is not loud.
But it was like an invisible ice hammer. It struck hard into everyone's heart, shattering the warmth that had just risen. System exploration. Who will calibrate it? The calibrator.
My pupils suddenly contracted in that instant. I suddenly turned my head, fixated on the scanner in Ella's hand. That message carried a detachment that looked down on all beings. He is not from that already shattered mirror, nor is it any remnant from this unusual event. That cold question seemed to pierce through dimensions. It was projected directly into the depths of my soul. He comes from a higher place, a place that has been watching me all along. That cold question was answered in the corridor. A chill that comes from the depths of the soul. Climb up along everyone's spine. This is not the echo of an unusual event. This is the judgment. Ella and old Gray's muscles tensed instantly. He looked around warily. Lena instinctively stepped back, holding her brother. The indifference in those words. It made him feel a fear deeper than a mirror maze. Only Wu remained unmoved. That is not just simple words, but rather a kind of signature. A unique technique that seals information with underlying logic. I only used this technique with my mentor who had been missing for many years. The conjecture left behind in the model has been seen. Same.
Who will calibrate the calibrator? This cold question was like a probe. It pierced the core of my thinking with precision.
This is not dangerous. Rather, it is a higher existence's definition of my abilities. Torture and warning. He was saying,
You think you're calibrating the world,
but you yourself are the biggest variable. This is my thoughts raced.
The green light on the scanner screen suddenly flashed. The line of text vanished instantly. Immediately after, an extremely complex 3D star map data packet appeared.
Forcibly written into freeze frames. At the end of the data stream is a red dot.
Marked as a location located at the far north of the world. Mountain coordinates never marked on any official map. The next second, the screen went black with a loud snap.
Damn, it's burning. Ella muttered under her breath.
He didn't know that in just those few seconds, his instrument received it, enough to disrupt the entire procedure.
The information of Union awareness. On the way back to the Union headquarters, the atmosphere was unusually heavy. Ella would occasionally peek at me in the back seat through the rearview mirror. I have remained silent since leaving the orphanage.
Just looking out the window, he suddenly felt that the distance between himself and me was greater than that between humans and gods. They are still shocked by solving a problem, and I seem to have already started thinking about the department beyond the problem.
Back to the Union. I politely stepped away from the welcoming crowd. He walked straight to my temporary office, shut the door. I opened the encrypted document editor. His hands sped away on a rune keyboard. I didn't indulge in victory, nor was she intimidated by that high-dimensional question, since higher-level systems have been discovered. So the first step is to incorporate this system into my cognitive framework.
I am submitting a report that is enough to stir up a huge storm in the Procedure Guild. Title:
On establishing a rule system. The concept of incorporating rule anomalies into the scientific system. I couldn't sleep all night.
The next morning,
I pressed the send button. The report was sent directly to the highest authority of the Union, the President. The core content of the report is straightforward and direct. 1. The rules they face are abnormal. It's a bug in the world's underlying rules.
2. Physical purification by evolutionists and energy suppression by technology.
Essentially, it's all about using a hammer to repair precision computers. 3. A completely new disciplinary rule theory must be established. Research and analyze them in a scientific way.
And finally, calibrate these rules.
Every word of this report denies the formalists. The fundamental philosophy of the Guild since its founding.
Less than 10 minutes.
My communicator rang. It is the highest level credential of the President's office. When that heavy door was pushed open, I saw the Union's core of power as president. A middle-aged man who looked ordinary. He was standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window.
With his back to Advisor Suzuki, he didn't look back. The voice was calm. I read your report. Very bold, and also arrogant.
I only state the facts. I pushed on my glasses.
Fact. The president finally turned around. His gaze was like that of a weary scholar. The fact is, the purification faction demands immediate judgment. The technical department considers your theory fantasy. Over 90% of Union members think you're crazy. I remained silent, but the president changed the subject. He walked up to me. Hand me a document. I approve. The document bears a bright red seal and the chairman's handwritten signature.
Shocking.
The title is precisely about agreeing to establish the Academy of Rule Sciences.
And granted Lin Mo a full approval of responsibility.
For the first time, my eyes showed a subtle flicker. 3S-level events. The president spoke each word deliberately. Your achievements have silenced everyone. I don't care if your theory is true or not.
I only look at the results. The Guild needs your results. He gave me a deep look. His tone grew heavy latent. Transferred out of the evolution faction due to violations. Needs to reorganize its philosophy. The Guild needed a new direction.
Or say a new myth to make this myth. Director Lin Mo, the president pointed out the window.
From today,
Laboratory Building Number 3, Trade Union District.
And the highest handling privilege for all rule class exception events.
All of these fall under the unlimited supply of personnel, equipment, and funds.
I have only one request.
The chairman's gaze became incredibly sharp. Prove you are right. I took the documents. He replied calmly. I will. That afternoon, they went to Laboratory Building Number 3 to officially list the plaque. Rules Academy of Sciences. This unfamiliar name.
It caused a huge stir throughout the Guild. I stood at the bottom of my new department. Outside the huge floor-to-ceiling windows is the twilight of a steampunk city. I'll rub out the data from Ella's scrap scanner.
I entered the holographic
star map projector I had just installed.